There's something comforting about the simplicity of a 2D platformer. No weird battle systems, no insane plots, no worrying about if you have enough time in your fleeting existence to experience all the game has to offer. Now, that's not to say there aren't 2D platformers with some of these. I mean, I still haven't finished Hollow Knight yet, that game has an insane amount of content. But the simple level-based platformers are the comfort food of gaming to me. Growing up, some of my favorite games were the original Donkey Kong Country trilogy. And by trilogy, I only mean 1 and 2, I never really had the third. I've probably already talked about this, seeing as I've reviewed the original Donkey Kong Country and Tropical Freeze, but my point still stands. And now that we have that preamble out of the way, let's get started. This week, here on That Game Review Show, I am your host, James, and we will be taking a look at maybe the best platformer on the Wii, Donkey Kong Country Returns. I remember seeing this game at stores when I was a kid and freaking out that there was a new Donkey Kong game coming out. I even remember as a kid, maybe 12 or so, watching the demo video on a Wii at Best Buy over and over because I was so interested. The salesman really wanted me to get my mom to buy a Wii, of course, and seeing as I didn't get it, that didn't work out well. But it is a fond memory. Then my opinion of the game changed severely. Around maybe 14 or so, I was in the phase a lot of gamers have yet to move past, where I felt superior about basically everything. So when I saw the game more after it was out, I did not like it. Oh, you only get 2 hearts per monkey, talk about easy. If you die too much, the game will just play itself. Those kinds of things. It was only until I got a 3DS that I played the game myself, and man, I was wrong to hate it. As far as the plot is concerned, there isn't much to talk about. The volcano on DK Isle erupts, and out come a bunch of Tinky dudes, who hypnotize all the animals on the island, and they steal the Kong banana horde. When the Tikis try to work their magic on Donkey Kong, it doesn't work, probably because he's supposed to be really dumb. That moment when you're so dumb that brainwashing doesn't work. In order to get the bananas back, Donkey Kong and his nephew Diddy make their way through all the regions of DK Isle until they reach the tippity top, in which they find King Tiki. He consumes a bunch of bananas and then vomits it out onto his minions, turning them into giant golden hands. Once the Tikis have been destroyed, DK is thrown up to the moon, which he then punches down and sends it falling onto the volcano for some reason. You know what? I won't even question it. That's the game though. If you complete every Kong stage, you do get to access a secret final level, then unlocks a mirror mode if you complete it. But what are the Kong stages? Well, every level in the game has 4 Kong letters in them, and yes, they do count towards progression. But if you collect all of them in a world, then the Kong stage opens, which are ultra difficult stages that give even me trouble. Now I won't say I'm the best at 2D platformers, but I'm certainly no slouch either. But good goddamn, this game can be pretty challenging, same as Tropical Freeze. Retro did a really good job balancing the difficulty in the levels with the progression of the game, having a really gradual difficulty curve. One thing that helps the game stand out is how original the levels are. There are pretty generic ones, like the final world having almost entirely lava levels. But then there are stages where the Kongs are hiding behind barriers to avoid massive waves, or scaling up the side of a cliff. There are another variant of levels in this game, and those are the vehicle levels. There are only really 2 types of vehicle levels, rocket barrel and minecart stages. These are considered some of the hardest levels in the game, and I really don't see it. Maybe it's from the fact that I spent so much of my childhood playing the minecart levels in the original games, but I thought the ones here were just a lot of fun and very well designed. But overly difficult is a bit of a stretch. I think the main sticking point people have is the fact that if you take any damage in the vehicle, it will explode and you have to restart from the checkpoint. As far as gameplay is concerned, DK plays exactly the same as he did in Tropical Freeze, except he only has access to Diddy as a companion, and he can blow gently by ducking. This brings me to one of my largest points of contention with this game.
The fucking motion controls suck ass.
To roll, smash, and blow, you need to waggle the Wiimote or nunchuck depending on your level of caring. As an idea, this is fine and it's supposed to make use of the Wii's main gimmick. But in execution, I found that sometimes the Wiimote just wouldn't accept my wags as an input and nothing would happen. Normally this wouldn't be a big deal, but there were a few times where it did actually kill me because I wasn't rolling. It was admittedly pretty fun to shake your ass off for the gold barrels and to finish off the boss tikis, but even then, there were times when the motion controls wouldn't quite agree with what I was doing. So this brings me to the 3DS version of the game, which is the one I cut my teeth on a few years ago. The overall game is exactly the same. There is a new mode where each Kong gets 3 hearts instead of 2, but level design is the same and everything. Oh, and there's also like a whole new bonus world, but since I don't feel like recording any of the 3DS version, because I don't have a 3DS capture card, you don't get to see them. The main appeal of this version of the game is the fact that there are no motion controls. B is jump, and Y is smash and roll. This makes the overall gameplay vastly superior to me than the Wii version. I will say though, there is an issue with the 3DS title that I've had for a while, and it's the inconsistent frame rate. I think the Wii version runs at about 60 FPS, and the 3DS version is mostly running at 30. But there are instances, especially in the Kong levels, where the frame rate will drop, and while it normally wouldn't be too big of a deal, I noticed I would get hit by an enemy and start to flicker because of the invincibility frames. And the stuttery frame rate would essentially make your character invisible just long enough for you to die. Considering as I have gotten 100% completion in that game, it wasn't that big of a deal in the end, but it does add a sticking point to that version. So there's a balance. Shitty motion controls, or sometimes shitty frame rate. Both will probably make you die equally, honestly, so pick your poison. In the end, that's all I really wanted to say about Donkey Kong Country Returns. It's a really good game, only really surpassed by Tropical Freeze, and it's worth playing if you really like 2D platformers. It's available on the Wii and the 3DS, and it's backwards compatible on the Wii U. It might even be available to purchase on the Wii U through the eShop thing they do. And there is also emulation, which I believe might help with the sticking points about the motion controls, assuming you can set the shake to a button. But what do I know? I've never emulated Wii games before because I'm a good boy, and they aren't too expensive yet, unlike GameCube games. Well, that was Donkey Kong Country Returns. Really nothing to say for an outro this week, other than thank you all so much for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't already. And, come join us back again next week for Terrell's next review, which I don't know what it is. Maybe. I might know. We're talking about it on Discord. I might know. See you next time.